talk about call center agents, right? There are a lot of specialized outsourcing providers. They provide call center agents for various BPO services, and there are like a huge network of agents who are trying to talk to customers, understand their problems, solve them. Their day-to-day job will be just answering calls. And the interesting part is they're expected to know everything about the product, everything from the entire value chain of the product to answer all these questions. I think I have a lot of empathy for salespeople who actually do that by having every information in their fingertips while having the call, right? It's probably not that easy. That's one scenario where a lot of sales happen. Then there's a medical sales rep, slightly in a different salesy scenario where what they're trying to do is there's a pharmaceutical corporation which has a lot of laboratory material and market research information about drugs. They go to the practitioners and key opinion leaders. They try to tell about the different products and try to get sales happen there. Then there is CPG products where there is a plethora of products that we buy every day. We want to understand more about warranty, more about the product catalog, and if there is availability of this product and all of that, right? And before LLMs, this was a hard problem. All salespeople have to know some of this information or all of that in their mind, right? And that's a hard problem to solve. I think with LLMs, if I ask you a question, what is the approach that would help you solve this problem? No surprises for guessing here. I think the answer would be retrieval-augmented generation. In this talk, we're going to go into one level down into say, how can we solve each of these problems, and is just retrieval-augmented generation that we know of can solve this problem or not, right? So just for context setting, I hope most of this is a tech talk from me, and most of you must be aware of retrieval-augmented generation, but for the sake of setting context, let me just walk you through the different things that happen in retrieval-augmented generation, right? The first step is we have to get all the documents. It's in multiple formats. We'll have to parse all that documents. And then the second step is have a document store, decide on what kind of store that you want. There's a lot of choices that has to be made at that point as well. Then there's retrieval, where we have to get the relevant information out of it. That's the retrieval. There's a bunch of retrievals, BM25, the traditional approaches, and also now with LLMs, there is more latest LLM embedding-based retrievals. Question answering, again, right? If I look at this pipeline up until here, till the question answering system, this existed even before 2023, where the generative AI has boomed, right? Till here, BERT was released in 2018. We know this existed, this pipeline, but what generative AI has done is it has made the responses and the perspectives that it brings up, which can be directly used by sales team, very, very crisp, clear. The generative AI component that you see is the last bucket mainly, right? And this is a RAG solution that we typically use for all the three problems. Cool, then this looks fine. We have a lot of steps to do. But let me go a little deeper into each of the use case, right? Let's rewind into the call center use case to see what are the daily challenges of them. What happens to the agent? The agent has to answer a lot of complex queries. The nature of these queries would be, I want to understand about, say, when is my, so if you're talking about a sales in terms of, say a product, right? A credit card, if they're offering, and if somebody answers the call, luckily most of the calls are usually, we drop the calls, we don't answer them. But if we answer them, what happens? We'll have a lot of questions about why and how we want to make the decision about purchasing or signing up that for credit card, right? We would ask, what are the benefits? What are the rewards? How can I avail? What is the minimum date? How much should I hold in it? Is this an international card? Is this only for domestic purpose? And we would combine a lot of complex queries into one, and that is one thing. Then they would have high call volumes that they want to answer, and then have more customers there. Then there are a variety of issues, like I was talking about customer. It could be concerns, understanding, explaining the product, explaining features, rewards, whatnot, right? Then there are also language barriers that come into picture. These call centers are supporting multiple languages across the globe. So these are roughly the common problems, right? So some of the RAG that we discussed, a lot of them are still not yet answered if we just use RAG as a solution, right? But overall, it is an conversational agent that needs to be built by stitching together a lot of components. Let me open that up a bit to show you how the architecture would look like and the approach would look like, right? This is still a surface level, but let me take that step. So if you see this, from left to right, if you go, the first thing is the call center agent is actually talking. There is text to speech that has to happen. Then there is language translation, because there are a lot of different languages that the person is talking in. Then there is complexity of the query that we spoke about. We ask multiple questions in the same conversation. So we'll have to identify what kind of intent is this customer asking about, and then have a rephrasing of the question for the retrieval to work well, right? And we have to have a backend process of a retrieval engine and an indexing pipeline. That retrieval output is fed to the LLM, right? This is still a simple RAG approach. The RAG parts that you see, the retrieval-augmented generation part that you see, is the part where there is a retrieval engine, there's an indexing engine, and an LLM. But one of the key components that will make this into a usable agent would be the text-to-speech, language detection, understanding intent of the conversation itself, and getting the right answer at the LLM. And that's something we have to think of an application view, not an approach view, right? RAG is just one approach. This is what it takes to get the right answers and help the agents answer the query at their fingertips. Couple of failure points that we highlighted here, that I highlighted here, right, for us to look for, where text-to-speech, language translation accuracies. Let me go into more details, right? So what are the challenges? Speech-to-text has a lot of accent, language, pronunciation, noise issues. There is a lot of error rate that's coming in. That's the first challenge. Then understanding the intent, understanding the query, ensuring we know what the customer is asking about. Then there is rephrasing, paraphrasing. This is one of the important steps, because otherwise the retrieval would not be able to get you the right answers, right documents, which will not help the LLM, which is the summarization part. Then the retrieval accuracy itself is one of the key parts that's going into the LLM itself, right? And some of the solutions, if you see, for everything, there has to be more work that needs to be done for the entire system application to improve. So for improving the speech-to-text layer, we'll have to improve the entire component, understand the word error rate that's coming in, have a few short solutions developed, deployed at that point. Then for understanding intent, there are a lot of pre-generative AI, natural language inferencing, understanding and intent detection models that have to be plugged in. There are a lot of paraphraser models which can be much smaller, lighter in deployment. We could use some of them to improve the paraphrasing accuracy itself. We do not have to go into LLMs up until any of these. Then the retrieval accuracy, some of the things that we are seeing working is a hybrid approach of, it could be both a keyword, vector base, and also re-ranking of the entire thing. That will improve your retrieval accuracies. The entire system has multiple failure points, and we have to optimize on all of that for LLMs to use their power and give us the required output. And that's how this solution would look like. It's still a RAG, but there is much more to it. Let's get into medical agent solution. What are the problems, right? Some of them are more managerial problems. But if I look at the third and the fourth bullet, right? Navigating the complex purchasing processes, reimbursement systems within healthcare organization is a lot of information that the salesperson has to carry. Then staying up to date on what are the medical advancements, regulatory changes, market dynamics, the research, the custom research that happens. These are the two challenges for the sales agents to be at their fingertips, right? And again, the solution might seem like it's a chatbot with medical reps having all the clinical study data, sales material, and whatnot, right? Let's dive into why LLMs will not be able to do that, right? Or we'll need a certain different approach. So our majority of the LLMs that are there out are trained on English corpus that's there out in the web. And there are some custom models which are trained domain specific, but this could be much more intensive because this is coming for market research that's still not there out in the World Wide Web, right? Even the domain specific models might not be able to do justice to getting the right output. So this RAG approach itself, the way we would do it is, For the user query, we'll have to understand the sentiment, the core model is the same, the retrievals are the same. The challenge comes where we'll have to build in a custom LLM model. This is a much more intensive process where we are trying to build a custom LLM model with all the layers in it, the pre-training layer, reward model, fine-tuning layer, and also a reinforcement learning layer. Now the challenges look slightly different. We know we can tackle the RAG problems in terms of retrieval accuracies, in terms of indexing or sentiment, all of that we've discussed in the past. Now, the challenges look so this is, I think, the overall architecture, right? We would have to do data collection, extraction, pre-processing, knowledge base, and also for the custom training pipeline itself, right? This is a more detailed architecture, but if I go into the challenges quickly, we'll have to identify the right data that goes into the pre-training layer. This is one of the key components. We don't want to send in unnecessary data. We want to have a lot of guardrails, ensure only the data that can go into the model will be fed into the model. One thing is LLMs once the data goes in at the pre-training step, nothing comes out. Whatever comes out as the output. So this is kind of a very important, crucial step. Then we have to collect a lot of data for the whole process. Reward training data is another thing. Architecture and orchestration tech stack choices. There are plenty of options and also pitfalls, drawbacks of choosing one versus the other. So orchestrating, thinking through the entire architecture of how do we train this custom LLM is one of the challenge. Then execution, implementation, cost and time is another one. We are going into different kinds of problems here now. So for solutions, we'll have to, for the input layer, guardrails, like I said, is a must for training custom LLMs or to understand what goes in. For collecting data on reward model, we will need a human in the loop or a reward prediction model. These are, again, sub-models that have to be built in. We'll have to have a deeper capability understanding of the architecture's cost, do a cost estimate analysis before having decisions on how do we structure this custom LLM training and the entire process of. Once we have the training, we go back to the RAG approach, and all the medical data that we have is fed into the model, and the RAG will now be able to give us the required information at the fingertips. Let's go into the product sales agent now, say slightly a different problem. All the product data is cataloged into structured databases where the data is, the products are available. There's a product hierarchy. There is information, metadata about the product, the colors or the positioning or the flavors of the product if it's specifically in the food industry. Then what happens, and there's also product warranty information or information about ingredients that's more captured at a category level as well. That could be present in PDFs, unstructured data. So now this problem becomes a combination of unstructured and structured data will be needed for us to answer this question. Again, a solution looks simple. It's a chatbot. It's offering with understanding both inventory data, promotional sales data, all of that feeds in. However, the solution to this will look slightly different from what we saw. It's something called autonomous agents that are coming up. We have to marry both unstructured data and structured data. So what you see on the top is how do you get insights from structured data? What do you see on the bottom is the RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. For a particular, say, product information, we want to understand, is this product available? Once it's available, what is the warranty of the product? What is the shelf life of the product? You want to understand more about that product, then the pipeline would look something like this. We'll have to think through generating insights on your structured data is the block on the top where we'll have to use the power of code generation of the LLMs. And on the top is a regular retrieval, right? But how do you orchestrate this pipeline so that the agent is automatically able to understand the question, break it down into a smaller questions, and answer it both through your structured and unstructured data. Still a RAG system, but a different view of the RAG, right? Now, challenges in addressing this kind of a problem, right? In SQL generation, there could be incorrect SQLs that get generated. Manager agent that I said has to orchestrate and execute and prioritize the tasks. That is the agent that has to understand that this goes to structured data, this goes to unstructured data, and orchestrate that pipeline. Then there is also the cost of the number of LLM calls that we have to do, prompt engineer, execute this, and an implementation cost. There are also, for scaling, data engineering tech choices that we will have to make. These are some of the challenges in getting this solution to work, right? For incorrect SQL generation, lot of prompt tuning and fine tuning models might be required at that stage. That's one of the biggest challenges there. And the solution is to fine tune some of these models specific to that enterprise data, where we could generate more accurate SQLs, where the business understanding is fed into the models through fine tuning layer. Then there is a collaboration and a manager agent that has to be broken down into tasks that will help us in planning and prioritization. This can also be achieved by prompting. Then the whole setup has to be such that it is an iterative process with enhancements that we can do over time. That's how we should look at this application or a solution. Then there is a design thinking that has to go into how we want to orchestrate this solution so that we can improve this over time, benchmark it, evaluate it. So one of the important points that cut across all the use cases is there are multiple failure points that you're seeing. And the challenge is, how do you think of evaluating all of these and ensuring that you're actually providing value and the agent is getting the answers right? And there is no single solution or answer. This is a framework. We'll have to think of it as two levels. One is the qualitative evaluation metrics. There could be some examples here in terms of a RAG approach. These could form as a baseline findings, right? But then there's a quantitative evaluation metrics. Both of them have to be looked into to say if the entire solution is working to and providing insights for the enterprise. Now, I happen to take sales across different industries and show you an example of how approaches are varying across. The same problems are being spoken about in different areas and different functions, and we are seeing a plethora of applications and possibilities. I think I'll leave it open to this group's imagination to say what are the different applications we can do, where all we can solve problems using LLMs and RAG, if at all I may say. Thank you all.